In today's video, I will show how to create this email design system based on Airbnb emails and then use them in the Figma to build your own templates in this way. Here are the two emails by Airbnb, and I added a markup for each component for the email, such as header, content blocks, call to action block on the bottom, and footer. And the second email built with the same blocks, but content blocks a little bit different, and call to action almost the same, and footer the same. So let's create each component and then build emails from their components using native Figma features. I prepared a text, all texts, and images from original emails. So let's get started. And let's start with footer. Here is a content, logo, social icons, text, two store buttons, and description on the bottom. And the original width of the email is 640. Let's create a new empty frame, then add auto layout. To add auto layout, simply click Shift A or use this icon on the right sidebar. By default, Figma adds some paddings and spacing, so let's set it to 0. And for the width, let's set fixed width, because we need to be, footer will be fixed with fixed size. And let's change the name to footer. The first section contains logo on the left and social icons on the right. Text, here is four vertical blocks in the footer. So let's get started with the first block. Put in logo, and let's create a horizontal container for these three social icons. I select these social icons, then go on the right sidebar, click Shift A. Figma creates a container for these three icons. Let's update space between them. Command C, Command V. To add space between two blocks, let's create a container for the logo. I selected logo, then I have to add a container for this logo. Shift A. Now, as you can see, logo placed inside container. And our goal is to make this container, we want this container to take full width of the available space. To do so, by default, Figma makes these settings to hug. When the settings set to hug, the width of the container is the same as the content inside this container. It works. For the icons, we need to have a hug content, but the container of the logo, we have to set it as a fill container. And as you can see, now that this container takes full available space inside our parent container called footer. Footer has fixed width, and it's no matter which content inside, it will be set, it will have the fixed width. So let's update padding for the footer. Let's select our parent container called footer, then add some vertical and horizontal spacing. Okay, and let's create a block, a vertical block for these two containers, for the logo and for social icons. Now we have two. I select container and icons and click Shift A. Let's add one more block. And if we duplicate, I will rename it to logo plus and if we duplicate this logo plus social icons block, Command D, it will be placed horizontally. But on the footer, we want to place containers vertically. So to change the settings, simply select a footer, then go to the right sidebar on auto layout settings and set width to vertical layout. Now each block in our footer will be placed one above each other, and we can create this structure. Now we have two blocks. We do not want to duplicate. We do not want to have two same blocks. Let's add text. To do so, I select text, then create a container, remove children and put text. For the text, I would recommend to set fill container 2. And after that settings, it is better for mobile layout. Now text takes 100% of the available space, and on the mobile layout, it will be resizing more in a better way. Okay, we have footer and logo plus social icons. Next, we have two buttons and title. Let's follow auto layout settings. First, create a container for these two horizontal items. Let's try to create a container for these three blocks: text and two buttons. Let's select them and click Shift A. For now, it's not what we want in our template. We want to place text on the top and buttons on the bottom. To do so, let's select both buttons, then create a special container for this, only for the two buttons. And then for the parent container, let's switch to vertical settings. Now to better understand the structure and see the real size of each frame, I would recommend to switch to settings called Show Frame Outlines. Now you can see the real borders of your frames. So let's call it store buttons, then update vertical spacing, set fill container for the text and fill container for the buttons container. Okay, now we can put these store buttons inside our footer. Command C, Command V. As you can see, now we have our footer. Looks familiar with the original template. And for the last text blocks, we can simply duplicate this block, Command D, and update and change text inside the last block. Now we have 4 containers, and each container 4 horizontal containers. Each container has some content. So let's run the plugin and see how it works and preview our footer. I run the plugin, then select footer, click on the preview button. As you can see, for some reason, social icons work not perfectly. So to avoid this issue, I would recommend to set fixed container for this block. When you add fixed container, plugin will add fixed width for each frame inside your final output code. Let's try one more time. Now it works. As you can see, text works fine on the mobile, and icons go on to the left, and logo stays on the left side. Okay, it seems like footer work, and we can move to the next block. Let's create a component. To create a component, you can select the frame, then click Create Component. The next section is Call to Action block. For the call to action, we will have an image, text, and buttons. So let's take our text block and first create a fill black button. I selected the text, then click Shift A. Figma creates a frame. Let's change the background color of this frame. Let's call it button first. Then let's change a background color and set text color to the white and update some spacing inside the button. And border radius too. Okay, we have a button. Let's create a component and reuse. And after that, we can reuse this button in different places. Create a component, duplicate, create an instance, and we have this block. You can select all content inside the block, then click Shift A and create the frame. Let's set the same width of the footer, add a name to our footer, then update spacing. Let's use the same spacing as we have in our footer. And as a last step, let's add some borders on the top and on the bottom. Custom. Now we have borders on top and the bottom, and set gray color. Okay, let's try to preview our call to action block and see how it works. It seems like it worked fine. So we can create a component for this. Let's add a background color and transform it to the component. And we will use it later. So let's create a content block. For the content block, we have some image, image text, title text, and secondary button. First, let's start with a secondary button. I select the text, then click Shift A, transparent frame. Let's add some stroke to this frame and borders on the right sidebar, and update some settings. Let's change name. Now we have secondary button. Create component. Now we have two buttons. So for this content block, let's take our button, select all content, then click Shift A. We have button. The original image has some padding. Let's add this padding to the text and button block. It's a content 1. I call it content 1 because we will have a second content type. And let's create a container for text and buttons. I select all of them, Shift A. Now we have a container for text and buttons. And let's add the same padding that have image. And let's update vertical spacing too. And do not forget to, for all text objects, set fill container for a mobile layout. Okay, we have a content block. Let's try to preview our content block and see how it works. It looks, for me, it looks good. It looks good. So let's add the background and create a component. The next step, let's create a component for header. We will take logo, text, description, and we will use primary button too. Let's take our button. Let's select all items, then click Shift A. Figma creates container. This is a header, so let's rename it to header. Then add background and update vertical and horizontal spacing. Now we have our container, and on the second block we will have a little bit different header. We will have an image. So let's move on with this header and create a second header for the second email. So let's preview our template and see how it works. For this big text block, I would recommend to set a mobile size for mobile layouts, because on the small screen sizes it might look too big. For example, you can preview it on the plugin UI. So let's select our text, then go to the properties section and set these settings for the mobile font size and line height. Now, as you can see, it looks better on the mobile layout. Let's create a header. It will be our first header. Create a component. Okay, now we have blocks from our first email. And let's create a header number 2 with center alignment and image without button, and see how can we use them in our email design. So Shift A, width as our original email, set the name header/2. I will show why we add /1/2 later. With these numbers we can easily switch our headers in final design. So let's add some image takes full width, but for the text blocks and header we have to add some paddings. So let's the only way how we can add paddings to put this content inside the container. So I click Shift A, set fill container for the text, fill container, and add spacing and padding to this container. Let's do the same for the header. Now we have header number 2. Let's add background and see how it works in the plugin. So let's add let's add some padding on the top and on the bottom. Now it works fine. I think in our case, this big title works fine on the mobile version too. So let's create a component. And let's move to the content block with this design. For this block, we are going to use the secondary button. Let's select all the content, then Shift A, update width, and create a container for text items to set some paddings on the left and the right side. Shift A, set spacing, fill container for the text, set fill container 2. Now we have this block for the content. Let's rename it to content/2 and add vertical spacing and preview it on the plugin. See how it works. It looks fine. So let's transform it to the component. And let's create the last one, call to action section. Now we have call to action. So now we have a couple of components for building our email design system, and let's build email using native Figma features. So run the plugin. Then, by clicking plus icon, plugin will create an empty container for the emails. Let's update the width of the container. And then we can close the plugin and go to the assets section on the plugin, on the Figma, not on the plugin, in the Figma. And now we have local assets here. And here you can find all your created components. For example, let's use header. We simply can drag and drop header and content blocks from the Figma left sidebar. And now, as you can see, we can build emails. Let's update some vertical spacing inside block in our template. And this way you can use native Figma features to build your emails, and this email will work in the plugin. So let's select this email and click on the preview button. And this is how it works. And for example, we want to duplicate this email and switch header to another type of the header. To do so, you can simply navigate to the right sidebar and switch between different types of your components. And build email using native Figma components feature. With Markup plugin, you can create a simple email from scratch only using Figma auto layout native features. I hope it will help you to build emails. If you have some thoughts or you want to some new content, please write in the comments which emails you want to see in the next video. Thank you for watching.